important. So we'll continue to work on that. Some other projects too, in infrastructure, the High Bridge. We all know how difficult it is getting over this bridge. We've done a few things to help with that. We worked with PACE, we worked with the schools and asked them to reroute their eastbound traffic through Canal Street so they don't stop, open their doors, look both ways, start again, which always holds up traffic. So they've agreed to do that. IDOT currently is doing a new traffic study to see if they can lengthen the light a little bit. It took them a while to do it because we had to get the 13th Street light up and running first, so they're now on that. But really, the big answer is the old Bruce Road, Caton Bridge, which has been talked about for years. It's another high bridge. It's a big project, it's like $300 million. So one of the things, as some of you know, Ron Kaniva, our beloved city attorney, has retired. But I was able to recruit Tom Thanis, and that name may not mean anything to you unless you're in the municipal world, but Tom Thanis is like the rock star of municipal law. He was the city administrator at Joliet. Roger Clare, the mayor of Bolingbrook, I heard him quoted as he's the best city administrator in the state of Illinois. He really is a good guy. So we were fortunate to have him come on board as our lawyer, at least for an interim time. And one of the things I told Tom I want to task him with is really getting a coalition of local mayors and, together to start petitioning both Springfield for this funding for this bridge. We have an intermodal down below Joliet. It's like the largest inland seaport in the world. And I'm glad they're making billions of dollars in trade, but it's like, look, they're really taxing our infrastructure. So if we can, start getting a coalition formed, start finding places like that and ways to fund this, I think it's very beneficial. So hopefully we can move this project from perhaps years in the future, tighten it up to 10 years maybe. But I really want to start that process now. You can't get anything done unless you start the process. So that's a big deal. Gauger Road, we've been working on. I mean, one of the things that's had that blocked up is we have to get up at 143rd Street with ML Realty. There's things we're working with the county. It will come to be opened up all the way to 143rd Street once we get the rest of the development. Isn't it? It's based on the amount of buildings, right, Ben, that we've got to get in there? Yeah, so, but ML Realty is definitely building, and I'll get to that in a second. 159th Street, by the way, is going to be widened to 4 lanes from the highway all the way to Orland. That's going to be a big project. That is going to begin either this year or the next year. It's not necessarily, most of Lockport is west of that, but, we all use that road, and so it'll be a big deal. It'll help in the future too for having flow back and forth. So I know the retailers up at Lockport Square have actually, their eyes get wide when they see that's happening as well. So that's a good thing. Public Works. Public Works has really done a lot to help increase their services. We do have a branch within our waste management contract, but let's be honest, it's a pain in the neck. You got to cut them into 40-inch pieces and bundle it. So I have asked that the branch truck go out at least a couple times a year in the spring and in the end of the summer when we do big cleanup. Started downtown snow removal. Every downtown in Chicagoland that's a nice place always has snow removal. So we started doing that, getting those sidewalks cleared off. Also, we have in-house tree removal, and we purchased our own boom truck so that we can have our public works crews, because if you know this, but the emerald ash borer really took a hit on our trees, and we have something like 10,000 trees. And so instead of using outside services like Homer or Aspelunda, we've been able to do this. So we have our own crews going out taking care of the trees. So we've got some increased services. Second piece that's really important is branding. And that's getting the message out who Lockport is. I've always felt that once you go north of 55 or east of Wolf Road, nobody even knows where Lockport is. And that does also include commercial builders and developers. They just think about Lockport. So one of the things I did was make sure, I had the proper information to bring to these commercial developers. So we brought on a consultant who specializes this. It's the retail coach. That in a second. And then we also took the time to recraft our marketing material. So once we had the information about who we are, what our demographics look like, what our trade area it into a package that we've showed up now to the ICSC conferences, which is where the retailers go. We have a new website that we built where it's easy for these contractors and developers to go to and look at who we are. So we have that information now readily available in the past. And for instance, the retail code, some of the things they put together for us. It's like our average household income. You know, when I ask people what they think are normal, what's the average household income in Lockport? It's like $50,000, $60,000. It's actually $96,000. That's as good as Orland. And so there's no reason why, you know, people think like, oh, we can't build in Lockport. They don't have the money. There's no demographic there. It's just not true. We have good numbers to actually prove this and show it. We also changed our trade area map. One of the problems that I found when I talk to retailers is they put a pin where you see downtown Lockport and they draw a 5-mile around that and they say that's our trade area. It's really not our trade area because that bridge is the Great Wall of China, right? None of us want to go over that bridge. And so our trade area really begins at the bridge and goes east. And so when we have that trade area, it changes it tremendously. It also helped our demographic numbers come up, but it also gives a more accurate picture to the retailers to show us where the holes are. Because when I've talked to them in the past, like say for instance, you talk to a broker from Hobby Lobby, they'll have a Hobby Lobby over there. Again, it might as well be Australia because getting over that bridge is so now they understand that this is where our trade area is. So having this kind of accurate information has really been important. We'll go to the big ICSC conference is coming up in May, I think it is. We'll make sure that we have a presence there, and we'll keep putting this information in front of these brokers for the retail. I mean, you got to remember, they always go where it's easiest. And so they haven't thought of this as an easy target. And so that's important for us to be proactive. Another way that we brand too is publicly. You know, one of the things that I really did last year was we put money into the budget to make sure that we promote who Lockport is. That helps both our own retail establishments, and it also helps also with the brokers too. Most of these brokers who represent these you know, the big retailers, they all live in. So, you know, now when some broker opens up West Suburban Living magazine up in Glen Ellen where he lives and he finds out his wife is coming to Old Canal Days, you know, once Lockport is on their brain. And when I did the history this year at Old Canal Days, I always asked people in the wagon, like, how many people are from Lockport? This year I had less people from Lockport, and it was filled with, you know, people from, I had Glen, there were people from Wheaton, there were people from everywhere in the cart. They really started understanding that Lockport is a place to come. And so it was important for us. We also contracted with WLS this year that we'll be able to be on the radio, make sure that we're branding well there. And I also had to give people a reason to come here. You can't say, hey, come to Lockport and go shopping in our downtown, right? There's like Tammy's place, right? So we had to give reasons to come here. So we really kind of looked at Old Canal Days and found ways to make it more interesting, brand it regionally and not just locally. Worked with MWRD to get the power plant open, which is a regional. People really enjoyed seeing that. We started the Summer Art Series, which was really fun. It was an opportunity for us to, you know, just have an entirely different focus on things. And just so people understand, this was all volunteers. And everything that we did in Summer Art Series, all those sculptures that you saw out there, all the artwork that was in the Gaylord building, it was all fundraising. We didn't pay for that out of our taxpayer dollars. I went out and I fundraised and I sought people who were donors, and we had private do this stuff. We had, you know, owners do these things, and they really wanted to be a part of it. You know, they're starting to believe in Lockport and see that this is a really cool place to be invested in. So all that kind of stuff for the Summer Art Series was part of it. And we're going to start it again this year. This year, the committee came up with a theme called the Superheroes of Innovation. And as I hoped, entities are now wanting to be involved in it. The Lockport Women's Society do take over the high tea, and they're calling it the Lockport Oolong Protectorate Society. They're going to do that at the Thimbles. The library is going to start Metropolis, which is a Comic-Con. They're going to pick a day where their whole building is going to turn into a regional Comic-Con, so that should be a lot of fun. Our local businesses are doing it. working with the tea thing. Joe Gentile from the comic book store, he's been doing Comic Cons for years. He's going to help recruit folks for this. So really, people saw how fun and successful it was last year. They want to be a part of it this year, which has always been my goal. I can't do all this. I'm just a facilitator. So if I can help bring people together to do these kinds of things, it's all the better. So yeah, the Comicopolis, that should be pretty fun. Another piece of the puzzle is housing. We have a lot of half-finished subdivisions around Lockport. And, one of the problems is nobody likes living next to an empty field where there's supposed to be a house. And so we needed to get that turned around. We also needed to be competitive with growth communities. Everyone always asks, how come everybody else is getting, these kind of retail stores and we're not? Part of the reason is they have positive housing growth. They lowered their tap-on fees when the recession hit. And we didn't. Council and I, we lowered the tap-on fees, and we've seen an uptick in our housing starts. It's up 50%. And it's very important, because even when I've been to these retail conferences, the first thing the retailers ask me is, how many housing starts do you got? And I used to say, 15. Now I can say 50. So it makes a difference to the retailers. It's a big deal. One project we have that we have given approval to is called the Highlands of Lockport. That's going to actually, they're going to want to break ground this spring. The intersection up there at 143rd and the highway. It's right across from Homer Tree Service. It's that little section of land up there. It's very difficult to develop because it's a lot of rolling hills. But the guys who want to build these apartment units were very interested in it. Sometimes you get hesitant about apartments, but these are really nice. We went up to Algonquin, we visited them. It's the only apartments Algonquin is allowed because they're very, very picky. And these guys also want to build these here now. They're upscale, they have a nice clubhouse, they have a swimming pool, they're very nice. That'll be 200 units. So, being able to tell retailers at the ICSC conference that we have 200 units coming in, that's a big deal. That's a real number for them. Also, in this place, you can see the outlots. There's 4 spots for retail. And then there's actually a parcel that's meant for a hotel. Ben and I have been looking at doing a hotel study so that once again we can have information when we go to brokers who represent hotels to say, look, we have the parcel for it, you're right off the highway, it's a perfect spot for it. So making sure that we have that information and we're being proactive will help. So this is finally going to get developed. We spent a lot of time over this past year making this happen. We had to run water up there, we had to work with certain owners to get easements and such, but after a lot of hard work, we were able to make that happen. The other piece of the puzzle is the industrial component. A lot of the zoning, the I-355 is industrial, and Heritage Crossings has been continuing to build. In this past year and a half, we've had Press Sense Printing come in, Axelent, who manufactures safety guards for heavy machinery. There was Atosa Catering Equipment is there. So we're actually filling them up. They're just not all spec buildings. People are actually going into them. And Heritage Crosses is still building. You've seen some of the buildings going up right off the highway there. Just so you understand, a lot of people, they all roll their eyes like, oh, that's all we need are these big industrial places. They're all part of the puzzle, because that's the other thing, too, the retailers look for. And look, let's make no bones about it. We're all searching for the retail, right? We all want to stop driving to Orland Park and Romeoville to get a pair of shoes. But the retail component, quite frankly, is the hardest nut to crack, and you have to have these pieces of the puzzle in place. The other thing they ask me, too, when I ask, the brokers from Sweet Tomatoes, why don't you put a Sweet Tomatoes in? We're perfect for it. And they're like, well, what's your lunch crowd like? The more industrial, the more lunch crowd I have. So they have to know that they're going to have, 100-something people who are local that want lunch right near the highway. So getting these industrial buildings up and filled up is very important. It's another piece of the puzzle. Another one that we just came before us is 20. It was also known as the Bridge Development. It's just a little south of ML Realty. These guys have they have a user they say they have in mind which is a corporate headquarters they want to put in. And they also, I just heard yesterday that they may even have a user for a second building that they want to build right away. Once again, the more of this stuff we get along the highway there, which is what the highway was meant for, the more opportunities we have to build up our retail centers. The other nice thing about Panettone, too, is it's a very unique it's not very unique, but it is unique. Most of the time when you see these big boxes going up, they're all lease, they all want to lease them because most of these places are funded by people's pensions. Panettone is actually a business park that wants to sell buildings, and a lot of businesses want to buy their own buildings. They don't want to pay lease money. They have a lot of money stored up over the last number of years, and they want to buy buildings. So Panettone should actually do really well. I think that's one of the reasons they attracted this corporate right out of the gate. So then, as far as the retail goes, if you look at the map, we have a few retail areas. We've got the Target Home Depot site, which we've all known it as. It's also called Lockport Square. There's another spot, which is where the Sherwin-Williams is. That's the yellow spot. And then there's the other area that's right next to the new Culver's. One of the things that's held this retail stuff up for a long time is it was in foreclosure. And so, and both these things, most people don't know the Sherwin-Williams Plaza was all foreclosure. And the reason why it's been for so long is the bank was demanding $30 a square foot. That's all pre-recession price, paying $30 a square foot. So it's sat empty. And you can't talk, so now we have a new buyer, a new group came in and bought it, which is huge because now they're back down to $4 a square foot and they're starting to fill it up again. The other one, of course, was the Lockport Square, which also finally closed last April. Now, just so everybody understands what happened with this whole development. 2008, Target and a bunch of other groups were meant to go in. Target actually bought their site. They actually own a pad within that orange area. Now, last December, as we were trying to work on getting GMX, actually it's the Janko Group. Janko Group is the one on this site. As we were working with Janko Group on that, Target tells us that they're going to sell their site. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me, man. Don't blow this deal. If this thing doesn't come out of foreclosure, nothing's going to happen. And I was worried that the Janko Group was going to walk. Well, I get on the phone with Target. I'm like, well, what's going on? We're just turning everything around. We're turning the aircraft carrier, man. Why are you guys pulling out now? They're like, well, you know, we lost $1 billion in Canada. We're in the middle of this credit card fiasco. We're not building anywhere. In fact, they pulled out of Bolingbrook. They were supposed to go in on Boughton Road. They pulled out of there. And normally Target builds about 50 sites a year. Last year they built 5, and they're all in high-density East Coast areas. So it's not a Lockport thing per se. We just happen to have a corporate retailer that took it in the shorts, and so we're not building. Well, I was really worried that it was going to kill but fortunately the Janko Group saw that this is a good site and it was a good deal, so they were able to move forward on it anyway. So the good news is the site is out of foreclosure. This past summer, the Janko Group put about $700,000 into the site for infrastructure. They had to finish paving the roads. There was a lot of sewer stuff that still had to get done, trees planted, and things that you don't see, but things that had to get done. They are going to go vertical in the spring on some outlot buildings. It's just in the front up there, right where you see the Route 7 number. That's probably the first outlet where they're going to go. It's nothing super exciting, I will admit. It's like a mattress place. I think the guy who owns Dunkin' Donuts wants to open a second Dunkin' Donuts. So while we're all pushing for the retail stuff that we really want, the momentum is the number one thing that's important. We get some momentum going on this outlot. I've talked to the GMX brokers, the Janko Group. They've said that they've got enough retailers who are interested that are small, kind of in a small box. You've got like Dick's Sporting Goods, you've got Burlington Coat Factory, there's a few of them. Hobby Lobby was actually looking at it. They're all concerned about who the other big anchor is. So right now, our work that staff and I have is, and the brokers, is convincing that we already have an anchor, Walmart. You know, building contiguously off of these properties is still beneficial. And so, once again, the more we're in front of everybody, the more information that we have, that's all pieces of the puzzle I talk about. Housing starts, industrial growth. These are the things that we can bring to the table here come this May when we go to the ICSC conference. And believe me, I go to these conferences, I go talk to these brokers, I get in the car, I drive up to wherever, and just keep making the case until they do it. And they're interested now. There's a year and a half ago, nothing could happen because it was still in foreclosure. We're a long way forward. So, but do look forward to seeing some vertical stuff in the spring. Also, the little purple spot next to, between the new Culvers and the Aldi, there's definitely some interest there. Some folks want to come before us, the planning department soon for some retail there. So there's a lot of things going on. People are that there is good momentum. Some other retail things that we have a little bit more control over. I mean, it's hard to control big boxes. Oh, and by the way, one of the other reasons why, and I asked the same question, going back one slide, is, well, Romeoville's got stuff and New Lenox is getting stuff. How come we don't get stuff? Well, one of the things is they got some of their big boxes in before the recession hit. If we had Target and Home Depot built in 2008, it wouldn't have mattered the recession. The other places would have come. The problem is they all freaked out afterwards. New Lenox got their Home Depot built. Romaville got their Target in before the recessions hit. So all these kinds of things, they already had the big foot in the door. So that's one of the biggest struggles we've got. But again, trying to put the other pieces of the puzzle in, what we can do. Things that we have also been working on is, obviously you guys are all familiar with the Voles building, also known as the Dreams building. It was a big problem. It was just an albatross around any kind of growth in the downtown. People drive through here. Anybody who wants to come and open a business and they see that building just keeps driving. It was quite a mess. We also had the hole in the ground 2 doors over. And for both of those properties, council and I, we purchased that. The one thing where you could see the black fence over there, there was an ugly fence when we didn't own the lot. We at least cleaned it up so it looks a little better. And then we found a developer who's interested in doing the Voles building. We've contracted with them. They're willing to put $1.2 million of their own money into it. And the problem with the Voles building was that when the old guy who owned it, he basically put whatever insurance money he had into it to shore up the building. If you go in there, it's actually kind of nice. It's all steel infrastructure now. But nobody would give him nobody was giving loans on this building because of where it's at and, the fact that it was completed. So Nick, the old owner, was kind of stuck. He didn't know what to do with it. And the only people that were interested in developing it were, I had a guy who wanted to grow medicinal marijuana in it, I had another guy who wanted to open a strip club in it, and then I had 2 people that wanted to get Section 8 in there. And the reason the Section 8 housing developers could do it is because they could get federal loans. The federal government will always give loans for that. And I'm like, oh, guys, I don't need that in here. So it was, it's hard work to find somebody who's willing to put, so you have to have your own money. You can't go to the bank. So we had to find somebody who's actually got enough equity to put into the building themselves. So fortunately, we came across the Meade family who's willing to do just that. So that's, they're very aggressive, and they want to be open this summer. I've had a couple meetings with them a week or so. They're willing to honor some of the historic look of it and put the facade back up and such. So that's good. We're looking forward to that project. The old bowling alley lot, which is 2 doors over where we have the fence right now, I've actually had a lot of interest in that. If there's an architect putting together some stuff, I have a microbrewery that's very interested in building a building. We'll see. I don't make any promises at this stage. It's very early, but at least there's people. When I bring them down here, I show them what's going on. I tell them all the things we're doing. We have, Summer Art Series Festival. We market it all around Chicago. I mean, they all get excited about it. They want to be part of it. So we're definitely moving forward on these properties. Other happenings going on, the police department. One of the things that I had asked, the new chief to do is make sure we have a department that really has a lot of community. Make sure people know the names of officers, that there's a good rapport with folks, and the police department has been just really good at that. We've had a better presence in school. The K-9 unit, while it's great for law enforcement, is also a great public relations tool. Using that, we asked that they changed the kind of how they interact. Police now get credit, or they're acknowledged when they get out of the car and they go into businesses and say hello to the business owners. They also get credit for warnings. They don't have to have a ticket. These are kind of things that I felt were very good for community outreach. Chief Lemming started Lockport Love, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but it's a charitable organization. And it was just magnificent. I mean, he found local families he raised money, and the whole department went out. It was like, it was in the paper the other day, the whole crew of people, folks' houses, and who were in need, and the outreach police department has just been really wonderful. Other things, initiatives, working with Lamont, that bike path opened up. One of the things that, like, when I've been out to places like Geneva, Batavia, St. Charles, they have a nice synergy because their bike paths connect. And while we have a good bike path that connects to Joliet, it kind of ends where the refinery is. So we've been working together with Citgo and Lamont to see if we can't get that opened up, create some nice synergy when people come out here. It's a place to go. Metro service, we've always been hearing increased Metro service. Well, every day we get one step closer. Mayor Reeves in Lamont is on the Metro board now, so we have a local person who's has influence with it. Romeoville has been authorized to do their own train station now. And while that will bleed some people from our station, have a net gain, I believe, because the more people that know they can take this train, the more ride there is. Metro believe that an increase in the schedule is feasible. Basically, we can get one extra train in the morning, but to go to the next jump, I think, what is it, like $600,000. So they have to know they're going to have $600,000 worth of ridership. So having the new train station in Romeoville, having Mayor Reeves on the Metro board, we've done a lot of cleanup in our own Metro station to keep it updated and well lit. So we've made changes with that. So we should be seeing some increased schedules. We're now sister cities with Asiago, Italy. Once again, citizens came to me who were very interested in doing that. I helped facilitate it, but it's really driven by residents. We have a lot of, what do we got? Rodageros, Canivas, every name you could think of. Big Asiago connection. So they still have relatives in Asiago on the city council. So that was fun. There's a lot of cool things that can go with this. Art space, continuing, we had a study group come out and look at how to revitalize some of these buildings. We are still looking at the Bill Sloan building north of the Gaylord. It's off the road. It's a building that's kind of fallen over. Most people don't know about it because it's not on the main street, but it's a city block long. And so working with Bill Sloan, seeing if we can't make this into a place where that we do some unique thing in there. We're moving the guard shack over into the Heritage Village. It'll be doing it. Actually, Chevron's doing it, so some old agreement. We've asked them to make that happen. Shack will be a new addition to the Heritage. It'll have a little visitor center ultimately. That'll be fun. Roxy Theater we've had opened up this past year. Trinity Service owns it. Trinity's a great group. They're a mental health facility. They've used the Roxy Theater for years. Once a week, just to have their clientele go in there and kind of socialize in a place they can feel normal in. But it's really underutilized. I had approached them and said, listen, I have a bunch of citizens who would love to see it happen. I've asked them to form a committee and come up with some ideas. Would you guys be willing to work with us to open that theater up and help make some attraction? And they were very open to it. They knew that the building was underutilized. So we started working with them on Saturdays and Friday nights. The Roxy group got together. They showed movies. There's a temporary facade up there that you've seen over the summer. And it was a lot of fun. I went back to Trinity a couple weeks ago and asked them what their thoughts are for continuing this, and they're excited. They said, look, we want to move forward on this. We're going to put money, like about $80,000 into the facade, because if you look at the facade, it's kind of, the actual stone is not in good shape. So they're going to spend the money to clean up the facade, and we're going to look at ways to fix up the inside so that it comes to the road and can continue to do fun things on the weekend. So those are small things, but once again, it's facilitate. It's really reaching out, finding citizens who are excited about this direction that we're going with, want to be involved. They form the Roxy group. I want to make sure we keep that momentum going. So all these things I've said are all pieces of the puzzle, whether it's housing, whether it's retail, whether it's industrial, promotional, all these things fit together. And we're not going to have a complete picture unless we look at all those pieces at once. So that's kind of what we've been doing. Challenges that we have is we're still playing catch up. We've got to, with our retail stuff, it's still in front of us, it's not behind us. So we have to continue to work on that, make sure that we are that's known as a as a pro-growth community, a community that is seeking development, and so we have to continue to play it up, and that's how we attract the quality retail. I want to make sure, you know, what challenge is always going to be sticking to that capital improvement project. Yes, we passed it, it's $48 million. It's out online for you to see, but there's always little things that pop up here and there. When we have to do some unforeseen bridge work, we've got, there's always some emergency thing that comes, so I want to make sure that we don't get off of it. That'll be a challenge, stick to it. That infrastructure coalition that I talked about with the high bridge is something that that's not going to be easy, but you don't know until you try. And then, of course, there's just always a challenge of making sure we keep, you know, the community engaged. And, you know, a lot of volunteers have come out for Summer Art Series, Old Canal Days, and other things, but making sure that we keep everybody excited, even though these things take time to happen. So when people lose heart, hopefully we feel like there's good momentum. But I also wanted to make sure I open up, you know, opportunities for people to ask me questions. And I know that there's always concerns and things or stuff you'd like to see. So for the rest of the time, I'm just wide open for any questions, concerns, anything you've got going on. So fire away. What you got, Glenn?
Someone's got to be first.
Yes, please.
You talked about the industrial buildings going on. And I know, Tony, that's already been set for a couple of years. That was already rezoned to have those buildings. And I can understand the reasons why you want some industrial, even though we have 143rd Street large industrial there. But you talked about to bring in retail, and most of your demographics are to the east. You stop at the High Bridge, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at drawing all these people from the east area, the Homer area, into Lockport, which is great. But when you put in all these trucks, and again, I understand that complex is already done, but I think you guys are talking about possibly having another warehouse put in just south of Lockport Square, next to Can't Do It.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. That was a piece of property that the people who owned it, I think, lived in California. They had like no intention of doing anything with it. It's been zoned industrial, and so suddenly it's back on the radar. So we'll have to see what's going on with it. I mean, I get it, man. Now, the one nice thing about widening 159th Street to 4 lanes is that's really the artery for people going east and west. And so that should, and it leads right into our retail center and then ultimately our downtown. You know, the thing with our retail center, let's be honest, it's if people have their own target, they're not going to necessarily go out of their way to target. It's really for us. Now, our downtown can be a regional draw. And also another thing that, and I've been working a little bit with the retailers at Lockport Square, is finding ways that, you know, guys, let's be honest, man, kind of the retail market, it's not what it was. You know, there's with the differences in online shopping and the differences with big boxes just like we used to. You guys, we try some other venues, whether it's like a combination retail would be where you have a Dave & Buster's and then you have a retail component. So people are more willing to go to that particular spot for a reason. So, and I hear your concern. Your concerns are knock it all up with industrial stuff. Just had the I-355 done was, you know, are the areas that I showed you, but also the entire length of of Archer Avenue is also opened up. I mean, you know, when you look at what Weber Road was 10 years ago, who would have thought all that stuff was going to go on Weber Road? Opportunity off of that exit to build. There's a lot of property there, and we have to be conscious of where they go, how the highway. If it's, I don't ever see our intersection has enough space or room to build up to the point where it's like awful. Like, you know, when you go to 159th and LaGrange Road in Orland, it really sucks right there, right? I mean, I don't see us ever getting that busy because we don't have that much space there. So I think we can complement. But you're right, Glenn. We have to pay attention to what the industrial stuff is. And then I find, like the corporate headquarters that's going there, or their want to go there, hopefully it'll pan out, is a lot of times that's the way business builds today. They just build a square box, and that's what they want to business in. It doesn't always just mean big trucking terminals. Like the quarters would be a big difference. Be a lot of cars, but then again, that's also brings in, you got to have the lunch crowds, you got to have the other things. So it is our to make sure that we keep an eye on these things. And that was the same thing up at when we annexed that other piece of property over there by the Pasquinelli property. There was 2 industrial properties, and there was that piece of property in the middle was owned by the county, or is, not owned by the county, but it was in the county territory. The developer wanted us to annex it in, which is fine, because we can't keep an eye on it if it's not, within our area. So, look, we all live here too, man. I don't want it to be 159th and 45th. I also don't want it to just be one park as well. We have to deal with what zoned is zoned, but all I can say is we have to keep an eye on it, Glenn. And you showing up to meetings and voicing your concerns is part of that process. So,
the only thing I'm very concerned about is that strip between 163rd and 159th, which is just a 2-lane. Many trucks, you're already going to have some, but we are putting more trucks through a 2-lane road. How's that going to congest your Alderman Wednesday night says, geez, you don't even want to come up Gallagher Road and get behind the truck.
Well, there's certain things that one of the reasons Gallagher is it's got recapture that has to certain infrastructure changes to the roads. That's when the developer comes in. Those are some of the things they're tasked with, is making sure that those are what fees are for making sure the roads are widened and stuff like this. And so that's part of the requirement. I mean, Ben, can you speak to that at all? Is there something you want to add to that?
Yeah, that development, Panatone will have them redoing that section of road that you're talking about as part of the development agreement. Additionally, by the one by Panduit, will have to make contributions to capital for development for signal in the area. Future residential nearby with Karen Springs 5 will have to make contributions for right-of-way acquisition and signal costs. So part of the development and growth is getting those development infrastructure. It's definitely already in the plan.
So that's what we do, widen the roads. I mean, we all know that if you just build with the existing infrastructures, it's not going to work. So, okay. Yeah, sure. Tammy, did you have a question?
I was concerned about the snow removal on sidewalks downtown.
Yeah, how's that? We just started that. So why don't you give me some insight so we can fix problems or things that you see are not working or working?
Well, I was pretty excited to get to work and see that it was cleared. Is that something that's going to be with a minimal snow or 2 inches or?
Yeah, we were talking to Joe Finley about that. We were asking the same question. If you want, why don't you come to, I started up on development again because I want to, and it's made up mainly of the property owners right there, because as we rip up State Street, I want to make sure we have an eyeball on how we rebuild it. Why don't you show up to that? And also send me an email, because I want Joe to have your insights as well. I want to make sure that we figure out what's the right minimum amount of snow to go out there for. And it's like a new for us, so we'll come up with the right number. Because I don't think sending them out there every time there's a half an inch is the right thing to do either, so, okay.
Mayor, part of that, and some talks with Joe as well, is that we were looking to complement the efforts that the building owners are already doing down there. Certainly last year, remember all the snow, and we had to bring bobcats in and help unload some of that. That was the first time we kind of started doing this. This year, we actually acquired a small little, like ATV, little shovel on there, so we can come by and help do that. But again, and Joe will get into this at that meeting, but the plan is to have it be a complement to the building owners' efforts, and then obviously after 2 inches of snow,
Okay. All right, what else going on? Anybody? Yes, what's happening?
Did you have a thought when Gallagher Road will open again?
Gallagher Road, I think it's dependent on some signalization up there. Ben, you probably got a better answer for that too, don't you? When Gallagher Road is going to open again?
That question's a little more complicated than it sounds. There's actually a pending court case in regards to some property acquisition on the north end of 143rd. It's a county case, so we're actually kind of on the sidelines for that one. It's going to take time to play out. Hopefully, those property owners will take the offers that they're getting before they have to actually go and condemn on them. But condemnation cases can take a little extra time. That is being upheld by an agreement we have between the city of Lockport and the county. We entered into an IGA with the county to help us acquire those properties because we don't have the condemnation powers alone. We can do it one property at a time, but in this situation, there's actually property owners together that are holding up the opportunity to put a signal in that will allow a turn lane for those trucks to get in and out of that ML Heritage Crossings Business Park. The other part of that is they have reconstructed the southern part, Gauger. Some people might be able to drive by and see the Jersey walls and see that the pavement has been replaced, and so they say, well, why isn't this open yet? The business owners at ML have actually put some dirt across that finished asphalt right now because they're running heavy tractors and equipment over the asphalt, and so they don't want to break up the road they just built. They'll also be coming in for to replace 147th. It's their responsibility to rebuild that. So even though they did Gauger on 147th, so without that, you're not going to be able to get that extension open because you won't be able to go towards Lamont Road because they're going to rebuild 147th. You won't be able to get to 143rd because the county won't let us open up the through fare because of the signal acquisition. So the shorter answer is
Nothing's easy.
At best, next spring or summer. At worst, I mean, to be candid, it could take a year or two.
Yeah, it really,
You're saying you're planning on extending Gauger up to 143rd, so that's making the jog around to State Street.
Correct. And most of that work's already done, but again, the county won't allow us to open.
Wasn't even ordered to make it straight through, so that's great.
Yeah, eventually, and then that other developer will have to connect as well. So Gauger would be a nice thoroughfare when it's all done and open. It's just
stinking county, right? What else? Anything? Nothing else? There we go. Yes.
You talked about vaults underneath the sidewalks downtown. What was the purpose of those?
Oh, who knows, man? I think they're storage. People still use them. Scott's, the coal.
coal.
A lot of them still use them for storage. People go down there, and you open your door and you're under the sidewalk. So, some property owners don't want to see them go, but because it's an extra room. But the fact is, they're problematic. And they're actually in IDOT's right away, so that's why they're there. They're not as exciting as you think if you want to go explore one, but they're just there. Yes, Gordon.
Part of your presentation to the public is through the city council meetings. The last meeting, there was some interference from the presentation because what was going on. The economic development leader didn't have a mic, so she was not live. And then Amy talked without a mic. Ron shuffles the mic over to the chief. I think we need to look at part of the budget, we need to upgrade the cable system. You're getting out to the public and part of the presentation can't be heard.
Sure. No, that's fair, Gordy. And we did actually put money in the budget for that this year. So we will definitely do it. We started cleaning up the chambers a little bit. We'll make sure that we do that. We're going to actually be able to put the Site TV folks in a booth back there so people aren't fuddling with their equipment, which happens all the time. Right now we have that very secure chalkboard that we roll in front of it to keep people out. But you're right on. We'll do that. And I'm sorry, these are the most comfortable chairs I could afford. Roger Clare, right, the mayor of Romaville, he takes me into his council chambers one day. He's like, look, I'm going to show you something. He goes, you see these chairs? And he has like these big theater chairs in there. He goes, I had these put in, so I figure if people are going to come in and yell at me, I should make them comfortable first, So we didn't go quite the theater chair, but at least you don't have to have your butt on that cold chair. But I'm with you, Gordy. I hear you. So we did put money in the budget for these things so people could communicate better. So thank you for pointing it out, because I don't know because I don't watch it at home. Yes.
As far as the bike paths are concerned, isn't there one that runs along the Island Canal that connects Iowa Cat to Lamont Road? And we're looking at making that more paved or?
No, man, we're trying to get it so you can stay along the Ingham Canal. Yeah, you kind of got to come out along the road. There's some talking to some council folk from in Lamont, and they're big avid riders, and they know there's a blockage. You can make a nicer path instead of having to go out onto the roads and ride. So we'll see if we can make it happen. We'll just where's Pete? Is he still here? We got to beat him up at Sitco. Tell him to open up some spots there. What else? Anything else, folks? Yes, Scott?
Going back to the vaults, do you know where the gas main is that runs along State Street there? I mean, I've got meters inside of that vault, I'm just wondering, you know, the other buildings all have meters in the vaults, or, you know, how are you gonna deal with that?
Yeah, that's part of the issue. It's been like, nobody's ever dealt with it for years, because it's like, who wants to get in that mess?
The best part of IDOT being involved in this project is they have superseding powers and agreements, existing agreements with the utilities that they have to relocate those. There'll be two stages of utility movement. One, we will work with the building downtown that they're gonna have to put we will pay for it, but we have to put and get the permission. Put a small brick into that facing that you normally access that hall, do that first. And then when IDOT comes in, when they're constructing, we'll dig all that out. Utilities will have to relocate those meters and those pipes from those walls. We did a vault study a few years ago that has been kind of picking because ultimately they're going to have to all be filled. And IDOT taking this over from that section from the 10th, and they are going to pay for it. So we're saving a lot of money to work with them. And then we've actually had some money in our CI to fill up some of the other ones that weren't in IDOT projects. So they will all be taken care of by the end of 2017, but we'll need some cooperation with owners, and then we'll obviously have some commitments with the utilities to move everything out of there.
No doubt, man, it's going to stink, Scott. It's going to be disruptive. But it's like every, you know, when I watch Downers Grove redo their State Street, when I watch Plainfield, it's beautiful, but once it's done, that's when things really get turned around. That's when you have level sidewalks, you don't get rid of those giant planters, because now we could actually put trees in the ground instead of those enormous planters out there, because the vaults will be filled. There'll just be a lot of, it's hard to go through it for that year. We really tried to put a lot of pressure to get it done in one season instead of two, which also times is what happens. This sounds like another question though.
Yeah, I'm wondering, if, you know, just a little more specifically exactly how they're gonna do it. It seems like that main is running like the curb on State Street, so, and then the meters are just inside of the vault, which would be like right under the curb, basically. So, I mean, are they gonna those in the meters inside the building?
I would imagine they'd move it inside of that doorway, man, like in the back part of your, where the space you're redoing, probably be in the far east side of it. I don't know, man. They're going to find out. I mean, that's what engineers are for. I mean, so they'll be on it. I can't answer that specifically.
Is there someone that you can put me in touch with? Because I've got a project that affects what I'm doing.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Just make sure you come up here when we're done, and we'll hook you up with the right folks. Because I know you're doing a lot of work down there, and I don't want you to do work that's going to get redone or maybe can be. Yeah.
You know, so I'm not, tearing something out.
Yeah.
IDOT is actually working with a separate engineering firm to help us solve this problem. It's called V3. We've used them for other projects in the city. They'll be coordinating with the utilities, with IDOT, and with the city. And so I'll give you my card, and we can talk, and I can have you discuss your project with them and what their plans are. I know they're working on the engineering now, so I don't have the answer to that question yet, but we're also replacing all, we're very opportunistic with your dollars. We're going to replace all the at the same time. So it's going to be quite a project. If IDOT's going to pay to rip this all up, we're going to go ahead and fix the water mains at the same time.
Get it done.
There's going to be a lot of coordination.
We'll get you the answer, Scott. What else?
Are there any backup plans in case there was an attack on the grid?
Attack on the grid? I don't know. I mean, I'd have to ask our emergency management folks, but I'll be honest with you, it's not something I ever put my brain on. So, but I can find that out. Obviously, it's an important question. You don't get upset until all the power's gone, and then all of a sudden, why didn't we have an answer? So, I think it's a legitimate question. Ben, can you do me a favor? Can you make a note? I didn't bring a piece of paper up here. We'll just talk about how we deal with our grid in this area. All right. Nothing else? I mean, it's okay. You can dig in. All right. Well, folks, thanks for coming out here on a cold Saturday. I'm going to have another one on Thursday, the 29th, same thing. It was nothing, I'm not going to have anything new, but it was just for folks who maybe couldn't make it on a Saturday. So, you know, I do appreciate your concerns and thoughts. Anytime, send emails or to me. If any of you guys want to be involved in anything, I mean, a lot of people in this room already are, but like, you know, Summer Art Series or Old Canal Days or any citizen-driven volunteer stuff, let me know. Yeah, they can always, they do a lot more when there's more shoulders to the wheel. And then again, don't hesitate to reach out to me for anything, so. All right. Well, thanks, folks. Thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. Plenty of donuts, so I think just don't, make sure you fill your pocket.